Tonight, my name is Terry Marshall. One of the founders of Intelligent Mischief, which is what we call a hack lab for civic engagement. We just take art and artists and culture and community organizing, and we use it to look at social issues from a different point of view. And we're being incubated by Future Boston Alliance, and we're here co-sponsoring this event tonight. What I'm going to do really quickly is I'm going to let each of the panelists just introduce themselves, give a little bit of background, and then we're going to have a very simple format. We're going to have a series of questions. Panelists are going to answer each question. After the questions are finished answered, go through the rounds. We'll have the audience ask questions of the panelists, and then have a little interactivity. And then after that, people can feel free to mingle, stay, party. We're here till like 11 p.m. Right? So with that, I'll let Malcolm introduce yourself first.
Hi, my name is Malcolm, social media manager for Convolute, MSc graduate student, WERS urban program director, a lot of other random things. I've lived in Boston since I was 2 years old, and seen a lot of things here.
Hi, Will Morales. I'm the executive director of the YMCA Achievers, the historic YMCA Achievers for 39 years and still growing. And a lot of our work is pre-collegiate and college access work, making sure especially students develop, matriculate to college, but to make sure that they have the skills sets that they need to make sure that they get through, which is another big piece of it. I've had many hats. I'm a native from Brooklyn, so I'm a New York Yankees fan. It's hard in Boston. And I think that every relationship needs to stop.
I'm glad you're being honest.
Just being honest. But I've had other roles. I was the chief operations officer of Youth Enrichment Services, which was known for its skiing programs and winter sports, and dabbled a little bit in the winter industry as well, and was at Wheelock College as the senior director of community partnerships and program, where I worked underneath one of my idols and one of my heroes, and that's Jackie Jacobs Scott.
Okay. My name is Kevin Augustine, and I'm a photographer. All my work's around the room, and this young man here, I'm also a Brooklyn native, so don't kill me for my hat. I moved out here summer 2006, and I'm now starting to actually like Red Sox and the rest of the Bostonians. My son's actually a Bostonian, so I give him a little pass. But I'm a photographer. I really, all my photography comes for just seeing people happy, and I just love to catch people in that natural look. Time of them, expressing their feelings and just being caught in the moment, have something to remember by. And also, to do like a picture, because you live the moment of everything. aka photography.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I was like, yeah, Kevin, feel free to come in closer. All right. So with that, I'm just gonna get started with the first question, right? And everyone, answer how you please. Tell a story. Give how you feel is the best way to answer. If everyone has a sobbing story, you feel like crying, that always gets a crowd in. So
Amen.
Feel free to do that. We're liberated men up here. Yeah.
Amen.
We'll see. So to Malcolm, first question, I just want to ask, what do you consider is your greatest strength? And also as appendage to that, when do you remember first realizing that strength?
I think growing up here is kind of like my greatest strength is learning how to relate to a lot of different people. You know what I mean? Like, because Boston's pretty diverse, ethnically, class, whatever, however you want to cut it. But just being able to relate to a lot of different people and put myself in their shoes and really understand, the duality of their lives and really understand where they come from and what they're trying to do. So I think that would probably be my greatest strength. And I realized that, I'll say when I got to college, I went to, my undergrad, I went to UMass Amherst. It's a very different environment than what I was used to. But I really learned that this kid from the suburbs that I might not have ever talked to, I have stuff in common with, you know what I mean? And I really learned that you know, it's really easy to relate to people once you get rid of all, you know, the BS and just really just see them as people. So I'll say that.
Wait.
Well, I think it's the same boat. You know, I definitely love building relationships and having people who definitely don't see that they may be able to relate to see that they have more things in common than they have differences. And you know, it was very instrumental in a lot of the work that I did. I grew up in Eggleston Square, a former X-Men gang member that was known for its brutal attacks on Boston police officers. And I lost my only sibling brother 23 years ago, and when he got into a shootout with 2 Boston police officers. I could have easily been very angry and said, you know, let's keep looking at the police through the lens that we've always been taught to look at them. But then I chose to basically say, you know, how do we pull youth and police together to basically have a real dialogue about where the differences come from, but then most importantly, how do we then teach them to learn how to arrest behavior together and no longer arrest individuals. And so, you know, and that's always been sort of the foundation of my work, to make sure that I can see that the A's can actually be matched with the Z's because they're all part of the same alphabet, and most importantly, that to really show them that we need each other in more ways than we ever could imagine and think of. And there's always a possibility to basically deepen our city, deepen our communities by making those relationships happen.
Well, my strength really comes from my mother, like the struggle she had with us, but not with us, just like, you know, the struggle she goes, you know, raising kids as a single parent. So seeing my mother as like, you know, it's not gonna be a sad story because I'm sure everybody has, you know, that hardworking mother they look up to, but just how strong my mother is as an individual. Played both roles at the time. Nothing bad to my father because he's in my life. He does what he has to do as well. But just to see how really strong women are and what they go through with children, going to work and doing other stuff, trying to educate themselves and to educate ourselves, you know, their children, sorry. And all of that just like took a big toll on me. So it's like, you know, I want to make a difference as well. And with me having the mother that I have like, ironically, I have like a big impact on people socially, so I kind of like use that to my advantage and, you know, try to get people together and, you know, make a difference in the world. Like you say, you know, stop having people go against cops and everything else and just be, you know, unified.
That uses transition each round.
Wait, you're not answering no questions though?
Nah, I have the easiest job of the night.
I want to ask you a question. What about your experience?
Aaron told me, they said I'm going to just be sitting here asking questions.
What are you strong at?
Y'all
When did you realize you were strong?
Am I
Can we know?
I mean, I think that's a valid
I think
question.
this is valuable
I
information.
think it's very valuable.
And don't forget, that's your boy.
this was not. I was told to ask questions.
That's right, correct. That is his
I was
job
gonna look
tonight.
pretty tonight. And that was my only job. I hope I achieved that. I'll just say a quick strength of mine. I was really not prepared for this.
Good.
So, I'll say a strength of mine is getting people to believe in themselves, getting people to bring people together. I've been part of a number of different organizational projects over the years. I've been doing organizing, from youth organizing, labor organizing, community organizing for the past 15 years. And something I've been able to do is like get folks to like believe in a project and really think that they can make change, you know? And I think that's something, like, for me, that's what kind of really makes me happy when you see people be like, wow, like things actually can change, or actually have belief and working to a goal or something. But, yes, that's it for that.
Thank you.
Muslim school. Somebody over there knows me. This is Clan Muhammad School. People don't, you're from Boston, you know about that. But question number 2. What environmental or community factors you think attribute to you identifying your personal strengths?
Yeah, I want to start this one.
We could mix it up.
All right. Well, I mean, it goes back to college, man. Like, honestly, you really, when I went to UMass, we're going to a campus where it's probably 6% African American students, maybe like 7% Asian American, and maybe like a half Native American, and then this majority Caucasian. So it's kind of like you have to, if you can't get along with people that aren't like you, that's going to be a problem. You know what I mean? And I really realized that some of my friends struggled with that and just wanted to be on from the hood. I do this and that. I don't mess with these people. But it's not. It's bigger than that. You know what I mean? It's bigger than whatever your past was. It's really about understanding who's around you, how you can help improve each other's lives, and really just bond as people. So I would say that. I guess. Does that answer the question?
Yes.
I think my environment, I'm a product of being a ward of the state since I was a baby. And even at 12, I remember my mother having a conversation saying foster care is the only option that I have for you and your brother. And as a young man living in a neighborhood where crack can make you rich overnight, knowing that it was the funds that was breaking my family up, entering that world played as well. But I remember it's the institutions that I went through, from DYS to Court, to eventually graduating at the age of 17 and being one of the first casualties on the war on drug bill that was passed by our late Tip O'Neill, based on the fact that Len Bias decided to smoke crack and died. I will get a 10-year mandatory sentence. So prison was the first place that I began to ask, why did this happen? But couldn't get the right answers because there were too many of us that were in there so young and our development so arrested that we weren't growing up anytime soon or anytime fast. Unfortunately for me, it was actually witnessing my younger brother whole event unfold on television within these prison walls that made me get those answers to why am I here. And I was just like every other sad young man who found himself in prison, thinking that prison was a rite of passage, and that it defined my manhood in a place surrounded with the rest of the no-goods. So when I began to tackle the issues that brought me there, that's when I found my freedom to get out of there completely.
Gotcha.
And so that environment changed and shaped me.
Well, I would say the music, like the upcoming rappers, like my brother right now, he's a rapper. So to me, like when I'm going through like regular life struggles like everybody else, I feel like I could back down, back to music. Set you it puts you like in a mood that you need to be in, that's comforts you. So that right there is like, I didn't want to be a rapper, but I took that as like, to open the space of me thinking what I want to do. So I basically created my talent, which is photography now, which I'm an underground photographer. But I just took that, like I took his talent to mix my talent, and then I wanted to capture everything. So as he's pursuing his career, I wanted to capture everything so he could have something to remember. So once we get older, give our kids something to remember and tell them to actually go to a certain path that they need to, and not to go to the wrong sides. Which now today my son actually turned 6 months today, which is
Amen.
That's him today. So just give him say worst come to worst, he wouldn't have nothing to be ashamed of his father, So, and also that's his mother right there, my girlfriend Hazel.
Third question. I was like, we ain't gonna do this every time. Y'all can catch me off guard a couple times, so come back to me. How do you implement your strengths in your work, in your current work?
Yeah, start with well.
I'll start.
Popcorn.
When I think about my strength about building relationships, when I got into youth work, I used to think about that I needed to keep the kid next to me throughout his whole lifetime. And then I realized that the most important thing is that if I'm going to do any justice for any young person that I work with, then I have to be prepared to lose him. The thing is that I have to have control of what I'm going to lose him to. And that's been the the essence of my work. And so I realized that I no longer have this very competitive kind of spirit, or and keeping young people around me. It's about finding the right people, the right programs, or the right institutions that will continue to develop their growth. Because I know that my role is only to play with them for so long, to be in their life for so long. And if I want them to be stronger, then they have to find somebody stronger than me. So I have to be humble enough to say, I need to let you go so that you may fly. Because all I did was repair your wings. And so in having that connective spirit, making sure that I'm making the relationships, making sure that I find the right person that's going to take me to the next level. You know, that's how I use my strengths of making sure that the relationships that I build are going to hopefully continue to build the young people that I work with every day.
Thank you.
Well, with me, really, it's like, I don't know if it's self-explanatory, but I just like to catch everyone happy. For instance, the first picture is my cousin. He just got his master's in the Barclay Center in Brooklyn, New York. And since he was a young kid, he's just been an honor roll student, A+. So that's like a big achievement for him and our family too, because he's one of few youngers that actually did everything with school and everything and still working on that. Right here, I feel like, you know, today's society, a lot of young fathers are known as baby fathers. And, you know, which me, I'm working my best not to ever gain that title. So it's like, you know, a father actually cherishing his daughter in every step of the way. And here, this is actually me right here. And this, to me, this speaks a lot is because, you know, as an urban male, a black male, 26 years old, and I have a tattoo in the back where it says, only God could judge me. You know, I'm not a criminal, I have done anything, but normally everybody sees us as, you know, with your pants sagging and so on. I'm a regular, every normal kid that, you know, wants to succeed in life. And right here, in the far left, is my nephew, which is like, you know, my first model, the first kid that taught me how, like, you know, into like, you know, steps of learning how to be a father. So like he gave me practice everything for my son right here. So basically I just like to capture the moment of everybody being happy and like, you know, not just something I had to pose for the camera, you know, actually get like a fake smile or something. So just basically all like the genuineness of people's smile and everything else.
I guess I use my strengths. It's a little different in terms of me being able to relate. I kind of do it for all the men in my family who can't. So I came from Trinidad when I was 2 years old, and my dad worked his way to get a bachelor's. Like those days, I see my dad in the morning when he dropped me off at school, but then he'd be a nurse's assistant, go to school, and deliver pizzas at night. So I see my dad for like 45 minutes in the morning, and that's it. And out of I would say the 9 African American men in my family that are in America, 7 of them have been to jail. And I'm the only one that's almost done with a master's degree. So it's interesting that I do it to, you know, I really do it for them. It's like, I can't slip up. Like there's too much at risk. And I have to be, even if I don't think about it, I have to be that figure, that beacon, not of hope, because that's really grand, but like, you know what I mean? I have to be the one that says that, yo, it's really not that hard to do it. Like I'm not a super genius, I just work hard, and bless you. And it's really that. You know what I mean?
I think I might answer. Am I allowed to answer this one? I can pick this one. Yes, you can.
It's your panel, Terry.
Really? I'm getting used to that. I'm like, wow, I can.
Exactly.
How do I implement my strengths? Really quickly, I would say building off what I said before, what my strength was to like encouraging other people to see change. I think a tool that I found useful in implementing that strength is the tool of performance, right? Like what I do a lot, and people see that as a way, looking at performance as like people think of it as acting, and then people think of acting as fake, but like that's different. Performance isn't being fake. Performance is how you present something, right? So in my line of work, I do a lot of workshops, and I found out the best style that I use when I do my workshops is when I feel like I'm performing, right? And that gets people really engaged. When I'm talking to somebody one-on-one and trying to get them convinced, like, look, this is an issue you should be concerned about, this is your issue, or helping them realize, like, this way can make change. The way I present to them, the way I perform, you know, in everyday life, it matters. It really matters to people, right? So we understand, like, I realized that for myself, like, man, performance is a key thing that is a talent tool that we all need to learn in our daily life skills. So,
That's right.
yeah.
That's right.
All right, going to home stretch, come the last 2 questions. Still gonna do popcorn style, and I'll choose the answer if I want to or not. I'm realizing I got.
See how quickly power. No.
I know. No, really. This,
That's gonna be the next question.
when have you been the most proud of men of color coming together in Boston?
I could go for that.
Go ahead.
You know, I ain't dating myself or anything, but I know I'm old. I'm not old enough that when God said that it'd be light, I had to switch. But when Moses built the ark, I yelled shotgun. But to date myself, and Naj, my sister Naj was here. Probably the proudest moment, proudest moments for us who experienced and went through the Million Man March. Because
That's
if
true.
you remember the steps that it took just to even organize ourselves, it was the first time that I saw real rich dialogue happen between Latinos, African Americans, okay? Those from Nepal, those from the Asian community, really start having the conversations about how we were gonna have a presence in Washington. But then the most important thing, how we left there with a call to come back to our communities and then say, how do we continue that conversation and how do we continue that work? And now just remember I worked in Eccleston Square when we took over the now Rafael Hernandez School and then brought that back to those young boys, those young men who just needed to hear the message that we got. And I remember that being a very proud moment because until then, we didn't have real talks. We were in silos. It happened in the black community, it stayed there. It happened in Latino, it stayed there. But for the very first time through that experience, building up to get to Washington, I remember that that was a very rich experience, and I was very proud to be of Boston at that time.
Terry.
Still popcorn. I'll just to fill time. A moment, man. Not that there aren't many. I remember. I was gonna go into that. So related. I remember a time for me. I would say that was really important. It's close to that time. People talking about, Nelson Mandela recently died and passed away. A true freedom fighter throughout the world. And he came to Boston and visit. But actually, I think I'm gonna talk about a time when just before, around that same year, it was like, I think around '92, was if people, either you alive then or you know from history books, the LA rebellion, LA riots happened. And I remember, down like in Boston, so something that's like not really known in the history of that was like, that didn't just happen in LA, like nationwide, there was like things were popping off in solidarity with that. But in Boston, there was like a mini somewhat riot downtown. So what really happened here, maybe some sneakers got taken. But what something that mainly happened in Boston was there was some solid community youth organizing groups that got together and held a rally in Roxbury, and that I think even that moment I remember I went down there, but also seeing like there was the deceased Senator Ted Kennedy, that he flew in on a helicopter, and that he came because like he knew like that was like this is where the people were at, and that people actually didn't let them in, and not being hostile, but they were just like, this isn't your time, this is our time.
That's right.
And like people come together, and I like in my lifetime I've been able to witness like people power, people come together, men and like people across the community come together like that. That like just left imprint in my memory, my brain during that time. That was Boston known for. Malcolm.
Man,
And if you don't have one, that's okay.
no, well, honestly, I'm trying to think. Well, honestly, when I grew up, through high school, I was a peer leader. I was in Teens Against Gang Violence when I was very small. With Ulrich Johnson, crazy man himself. But yeah, so I grew up in that, and I know big around that time was when Louis D. Brown got shot. By accident. He got hit by a stray bullet from being an innocent bystander from a gang shootout. And I know that in that area, the Fields Corner area, it was very impactful. You know what I mean? A lot of people organized around it, and it helped spur the nonprofit program that I was a part of. You know what I mean? So that'll probably be, if it wasn't for that, I might be a little different. But who knows? But that's really my take on what happened and seeing people organize and the effect of how it can change people's lives.
I think mine is probably kind of off topic. Well, different state probably because I'm not really a Bostonian guy. But
Oh, good.
mine, I guess, it's kind of sad. But my older brother passed away in 9/11. He was in the building. And I've seen in New York, there's like basically there's corner stores everywhere, and a lot of corner stores there's like Pakistanis, Arab, a bunch of them that own those stores. And my local corner store was like really a close friend of mine. So it was his father that owned the stop. So I felt bad. My brother passed away, but I also felt bad that everybody was harassing them, like as if they did it. So I say probably like years later, they did a memorial next to the store and they allowed it. So that actually kind of made me feel good for my brother and also for the owners of the store. But I just took it as a sign. It actually affected me a lot, so that made me mature much young after I lost my brother, because at the time he was more of the father figure. So now, basically, my son, I'm sorry, but everything I have to revolve around my son.
Well, it should.
Everything happened on September 11th, and I just took it as, a guide to success and everything. My son was actually born on September 11th. So I took that as a blessing and everything. So now, since he's in Boston, so I'm gonna bring all my talent and everything within the environment and the community.
I'm gonna have the final question, which question I did not email out to y'all.
Yeah, I can see that.
The surprise question, but just in recognition that the month of March is International Women's Month. And this,
Ladies, it's our month. I know that we get massages. Like I get them to get our feet massaged and stuff.
unity. The final question I want to ask is, can you tell us about time? And Kevin, you kind of went to this earlier already. Can you just tell us about time about a woman or women who have helped you in your success, to help you achieve in life?
First and foremost is my mother, because, I don't know where to start with her, but she's just like, she has the title of a mother, so she does everything and sacrifices everything for you. So, well, it's like, half of my strength comes from her. Next is my older sister. She's also a New Yorker. And then my girlfriend, mother of my son. Lord knows I put her through so much, and it's like, I commend her because she's, she's a student at UMass Boston. Also, this is our first child, so everything is, kind of like new to us, so it's kind of stressful, so mixed emotions and everything. But throughout it all, she continues to stay on her A game, which reminds me of my mother. So it's like, through all the obstacles, you gotta remain strong. A mother is like, not like a part-time job. So, she does all her mother duties, and thank God she does all her girlfriend duties. So, as in like being
Round the
there,
drinks for girlfriend. Round the drinks for girlfriend.
as in being there and being supportive for me and my son. So, 3 women I respect almost. I mean, like all time, and just gotta love women. Can't live with them, can't live without them. So.
That's right. I mean, can you really not? I don't know. For mom, it's my mom, man. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, I guess the time like you really understand. Like when you grow up in high school, you see your mom. If you live with your mom, you see her every day, and she's always telling you something, and you're just like, get out of here. So I went to college. And then I didn't see my parents except for on breaks and things like that. And then freshman year, my grandmother, my father's mother, and we had to go to Trinidad, we had the funeral, and just seeing how strong my mom was for my dad put a lot of things in perspective. Because it was the first time I ever seen my dad cry. Because I don't know how this works in other places, but I guess in Trinidad, how they did it, when they put my grandmother into the ground, my dad and his 2 brothers shoveled the first dirt on it. And that's the first and last time I've ever seen my dad cry. And, you know what I mean? Just the little things that my mom did after that to make sure he was all right was just like, damn, she's pretty hell, you know? But I was just, it has to be mom, honestly. Yeah.
I guess in my case, I mean, same boat. I mean, when I was young, my father, like I said, was a heroin addict. So when he conceived me, he thought I wasn't his. So in my culture, the word is cabrón. My father couldn't be a cabrón. There was always threats about taking, you know, that if I was left in the room alone with him, who knows what would happen. And I remember my grandmother always being that champion and taking care of me. And then moving, everywhere we moved, she moved with us and we stayed with her. And I remember her playing that role, and from her, I learned strength. And I learned how to be strong, and that, you know, no foe is too big, you know what I mean? And that I can conquer mostly anybody who comes from my path, because I saw her confront my father, who was a monster at that time. I will also say, you know, wife, because, you know, 7 years in prison. Making a commitment like that. No guarantee that at the end of it, I'm going to come out and have any love for her. Because she don't know if she's getting played or it was a game. But she's stuck there. It's also the sisters that I found when I came back to my community, when everybody else didn't want to do anything with me, were the ones that recognized the youth worker in me. I mean, Naj is one of them. All right, so she was there in '95 when I got out, and the community was like, we can't have this guy back. It's going to start up all again, and this and that. And these women brought me in and say, yo, we think you could be a very effective communicator to these young men who we can't break through. And they freaking, and I remember one of the words that still ring to me today, when you told me about, well, you're going to go through a process. Trust the process. And I've been doing that ever since. So thanks for that. You know, and of course my mother, you know, when I couldn't read and write in prison at the age of 20.
Wow.
Okay? And my mother's whole life with me has been me standing in front of a podium with my back to her. So when I graduated from Springfield College with my BA, my mother cried because she says, the first time I saw your face behind the podium. And she continues to be a source of strength to me every day. And then lastly, you know, I'm the father of 4. It rhymes with no more. I got 3 boys, but I have 1 girl. Okay? And my daughter shows me every day who I need to be in that house. As a father and as a husband. My wife is always bragging about my husband will never cheat on me. I don't know about you, but I won't cheat on my daughter. Because if I ever want that little girl to see a good example of a good man, it begins with the good man that's at home. And so my daughter always keeps me rooted, you know what I mean, and strong. So of course, so I would say that there's been a whole world of women who have shaped me, and I think there's going to be a world of women that are going to continue to shape me in my thinking in the years to come.
Trying to slip out of it. Okay, it's the last question, then we're gonna go into questions for the audience. I'll try to answer quickly. You know, same exact thing for me. My mother, obviously, always gonna be someone's mother. I would say for me, a quick story about myself is like, as you know, I went to a Muslim school. In the Muslim school, which I am happy that I went to the Sister Muhammad School. I think it really shaped who I am. But there's a certain process that you go through that at a certain age, they separate the classes by gender. And I think that shaped my thinking. And by the time I went to public high school, I didn't have any like female friends because I just didn't see, this doesn't sound weird, right? So bear with me. But I didn't see like women as like your friends, right? There was something in my thinking that made me think like, well, women, they're your mother, or you date them and you get married, but you don't hang out with women, right? And that was like my thinking. And then I don't know, as I went on, graduated high school, whatever, and then I just became more open that, and like I started getting a lot of female friends. And anyone that knows me, like I have many female friends, and kind of make that point. No sexual reference whatsoever. Got that. But I kind of do actually make it a point to have like female friends because I was like, the world that they opened up to me, right? Like I always find in my community organizing experience, like women have been the backbone. Women are like the hardest workers. Women, like when you drove in, like women, because of like I think the peculiarities of oppression of women, like they're just smarter. They're smarter in understanding like how oppression works, what you need to do to for all of us to be free, and like just elevates your mind. So like I do keep like myself like surrounded by women because I actually think it makes me better. And I think like it'll make the world better. So like, you know, and I just had a chance to see that difference in my life. I was like, oh man, like why don't I have women friends? This doesn't make any sense. Like, you know, why I keep separated. So yeah, lots of my success always has to come with like women that you see around me in my life. Like there's a reason for that. It's strategic actually. So I just want like everyone give like the panelists to know. Coming out, especially Kevin, you came in at the last minute coming on here, so thank you so much for that. Now we're just going to open up. I think we have time for maybe 2 questions from the audience, and then the rest of the time, you know, everyone's going to still be around, so you could just come meet people, mingle, stay for a while, get here till 11, eat sausage back there.
Priorities.
But does anyone have any questions for panelists? Brother right here.
Hi, how are you guys doing? My name's Jay. Actually, my question has more to do with in regards to economics. Exactly, what do you think, as men of color, what do you think minorities and what do you think minorities need to do to gain economic independence or to become economically empowered in the city of Boston?
I would say one is just like work together.
That's right.
In what regard?
I just feel like, well, say in my age group, I feel like there's too many people competing instead of helping each other out with whatever. To be, you know, trying to be a manager or trying to be a rapper or anything. Instead of, you know, there's too much negativity now. Instead of people trying to boost each other up and help them progress. I feel like that's one aspect.
To me, I think we have to start learning how to sort of deconsumerize our minds. You know what I mean? We don't always need all these things that sometimes are put out in front of us, and sometimes we have to sort of teach our young people that, you know what I mean, you can definitely live with very little and live a much happier life. I remember my cousin who came from Dominican Republic, because I'm half Dominican, half Puerto Rican. There's conflict within it. But
Your own West Side Story.
But I remember him telling me he came here and was told, what? You don't have this? What? You don't have that? And him saying, that's when I felt poor for the very first time in my life. And I think what we need to do is really know what is it that we really need in order to survive. And sort of you know, teach our young people that basically in order to live a happy life, it's knowing how to be happy with yourself, not things that are going to make you happy. And just like the brother said, I think what we have to do is support each other's businesses and support one another. I mean, we got young men out there dying and fighting for a block. You know, let's educate these brothers so that they end up really owning those blocks one day.
That's right.
Owning those structures, owning those businesses. Because the more we own, then the more we control. And so I think, I mean, this can be broad and continue to be an ongoing topic. But I think it really begins what we teach these young ones now, and it starts with them first. So.
That's real. I think I'm kind of conflicted because I'm a marketer, so I want you to buy everything that I try to sell to you. What?
Only on Carmelita.
Only on Carmelita. But on the other side, I think it starts with something simple as a belief, man. People look at wealthy people, like even when you're young, you look at wealthy people like, damn, I want to be that one day. But you don't really think of the steps that they took to get there. You know what I mean? You think it's this grand thing. You don't know about the little investments that they're watching. You're focused on other things. I think it also comes from mentorship. You know what I mean? Having people that have accumulated wealth and can really teach, you know, our youth that you know, instead of camping out for new Jordans, maybe you should be watching those penny stocks because you never know. You know what I mean? So I think there's like, you know, a little bit of mentorship, but a little bit of belief that it's really not that outlandish. To, you know, become wealthy and control your own stuff and just, you know, take care of yourself. So I don't know.
I'll throw a quick answer. It's just we need to be organized. You know, communities that are wealthy, they're organized. So that's always like the key behind my principle.
So if I ask a following question, well, can I just read part of his answer? Or just make a point, I'll keep it very quick.
Well, no, I want to go to the next question. Just one more time.
I have a question. My name is Nadenia, and I'm interested in starting my own ministry of gearing people to the nightlife platform for Christian communities. And I'm curious as to, mainly for the marketer, how would you gear this platform to the people of color and anybody, something that's different for. I feel like I don't really hear about a Christian nightlife platform or something for people of color. So how would I gear this to that demographic?
Good question. And you should talk to Killer Boombox.
It's interesting because, you know, I feel like there's a lot of, I'm not really, I don't go to church every Sunday. I'm just telling you that now.
But Jesus
it's like,
loves you, baby, so
yeah.
it's okay.
But it's kind of like, there's a stigma, I guess, maybe my generation is a little different, but there's a stigma with going out to the club and then going to church the next day. But I think maybe that's our stigma of the club because it's a very interesting thing. And it's very complex, that concept, because, you know, people who are like, you know, heavy Christians, they want to have fun too and they love music. Like, that doesn't mean they can't go to the club, but a lot of things associated with the club, like the twerking per se, and, you know, just the kind of music that they play, it kind of goes against Christian values from what I see from the outside looking in. So it's a very interesting concept. We could probably talk about it more after this, but it's kind of like, I think it's removing guilt from the going out experience. I think that's the key to it.
Wonderful. You want to take one more question, or you want to close it out?
Yes, one more question. Sister over there. Sorry.
Hello everyone, my name is Diana Burtis, and Millie and Erin, I commend you for this event that you hosted today. It's great. Hopefully you have a future one with female panelists on there.
Oh yeah.
My question is, I'm a budding entrepreneur. I own my own event planning company. And my question to you guys is, how can we get more people of color to bond with one another and to have events where we're supporting one another? Like I have events in New York, I have events in DC, and I see people of color coming out in abundance, supporting one another, getting together, the movers and the shakers. How can we bring that to Boston? Like I went to DC this weekend, they had a day party, and it was amazing. I didn't want to leave. I'm like, I need to bring this to Boston, but how?
Can I take the first stab at that? Because this is something that there's such a systemic reason that I have to say it. And that is that it is very hard for people of color to even get permits to come together. And there is this horrible habit. I mean, like, when I first moved back, and, you know, I lived in DC and lived in Brooklyn and then moved back, and I almost wanted to start a magazine called Docile. Like, just to call us out, you know, like, just to be like, we are free.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we can stand up.
Right.
Like, we can, you know? And then when I started really thinking, and when we started getting into changing the policy of what it takes to get people of color to convene, there's one African American liquor license holder in the city, right? There's a couple of Latino, there's a few Asian liquor license holders who are all in Chinatown. So like if you need to get a drink in Fields Corner, good luck, right? And I think that there's something to that. And that's why I wanted to jump in on this question, because I feel like we need to understand that systemically, we do not have a tradition of coming together. And so to just take like, you know, a little privilege there, like, you know, for us in Future Boston, that's one of our biggest problems. I mean, like we try to bring people together a lot, and the minute that you need a permit or anything to do it, it's better. I mean, you just want to make it like the, McHenry Ball, and like they'll get a permit for that, right? And so I think there's like a habit that we haven't been able to build, and with you throwing events here, we're gonna get there.
Hey, I think it's an interesting atmosphere. I think a lot of now this might be my self-entitled millennial age talking, but like I feel like there's a disconnect between the older generation who currently own things and the younger generation coming up. I don't know whether it's a communication thing or if they really honestly don't trust our generation, or they don't want to let go of the monopoly that they might have. So I think that it's tough. It's been getting a lot better within the past few years, but like getting into starting to throw events, it gets interesting because not a lot of venues will. We're in Boston, but we're still, there's still a stigma about urban events. Whatever an urban event is, we live in a city, all the events are urban, you know what I mean? But like, there's a stigma on it, you know what I mean? Because there's a lot of events where there will be people that might look suspicious, but they're just regular dudes. Like, if you see me with a fitted on and a hoodie, doesn't mean I don't have a master's degree. It just means it's cold that day. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, and it's just things that you go through that I don't know if this is embedded in our minds from how we were raised around here. That they're not gonna mess with us because we look like this. I don't know if that's us speaking to ourselves, ruining our own confidence, or if that's probably a little bit of both. You know what I mean? But I think that it's been getting better within the past few years. But it's really, we haven't had that breakthrough of consistent events for urban people across the city. So. And I think there's a smaller population of people throwing events. So not everybody wants to collab and do one big one. They don't want because you got to split the money up. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a money thing at the end of the day as well. You know what I mean? But I don't know.
I think it's the same thing too. I think also coming together has to happen everywhere. I can tell you from my own standpoint. I was at the Y from 1996 to 2006. I did a 10-year stretch at the YMCA. By the time I left, I was the Associate Executive Director and Interim Executive Director of the Roxbury YMCA. Okay? The very first Latino to hold that position in the oldest YMCA in the country. Boston's the first. Okay? I left in 2006, came back 2011, came back to be the Senior Latino Executive Director in the association. And then it made me start thinking about, so if this has been happening in the time that I've been gone, if I don't speak up and stand up, and I don't say I need to reach out to my brethren that work within our organization and get them together, then how can I convince them to get together after work if we can't even get together in work? And then I know that my responsibility the second time around wasn't about coming back as a leader, but more to think about being sort of a builder of leaders for this organization. Because the reality is that we continue to be the growing population. You know what I mean? And we're a a non-profit social service agency. We're going to be serving our own, you know what I mean? And we have to think about who's going to be in that leadership reins to do that. So I think that coming together needs to happen in the workplaces, needs to happen in the communities, it needs to happen in every pocket, so that when we say we're going to have a conversation about coming together with other venues, we can come to those things comfortable because they're happening everywhere we go.
They summed it up for me.
Thank you.
I'll end it off quickly too, like just echoing, dealing with what everybody else said, but also like many conversations me and some other folk have.
Oh, shit!
Nice catch.
Yo, nice catch,
should have been in the lead. Terry, man.
You know, it's almost destroyed destroyed by one Kamalupa and saved by another.
Terry, you were saying, brother, I'm
Stay away
sorry.
from back there. No, just to end it off really quick is, you know, in Boston, Boston's a community that's, Boston's a city super fragmented, and then there's invisible boundary lines, right? So like anybody that's taking the #1 bus from Dudley, once you cross over to where's Harvard Square, that is the clearest transformation of the city of Boston. It's most if you have not taken this ride, please do it. So you can understand what Boston is like.
Crazy.
Take the #1. Take the #1 bus. Realize there's a couple of examples.
You know what?
But
Actually, you can get in my community, Eggleston Square. Start on Boylston Street on Washington. Walk straight down. Okay? As soon as you cross over Stony Brook, okay, you see a division already economically.
Yep.
Now you cross over South Huntington.
Yep.
Now you're in the Jamaica way. You go from multi-million-dollar homes
Literally.
all the way to Section
Literally.
8 multi-unit homes.
Same
Literally
street.
in a 7-minute walk.
That's right.
so that was not me. So, with that bit of excitement, I'm just gonna close it out. Everyone's still gonna be here. Feel free to talk to people, still get questions answered that weren't answered, and just get to mingle, stay for the rest of the night. And thank you everybody for coming out.